Today's guest didn't take the usual path into manufacturing. He had a geography degree, no shop background, and no clue what a tool and die maker even did. But he knew how to work. He liked building things, and he was willing to start at the bottom. 25 years later, he's leading production, mentoring future tradespeople, and helping bring mold making into high school classrooms, sometimes even through virtual reality. So, how does someone go from not sure what I'm doing to building real momentum in the trades? That's where we're headed today. Hello, and welcome back to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. I'm your host, Jim Mayer. This show is all about people, the ones who show up, figure it out, pass it on, and shape what this industry is really about. If that sounds like your kind of story, hit follow, leave a quick review, and check out the manufacturingconnector.com for more conversations just like this one. Today's guest is someone I connected with right away. Darryl Gratrix has been in manufacturing for close to 3 decades. He started in tool and die, moved into mold making. Now he's a production manager at Molded Precision Components up in Ontario. But what stood out to me wasn't the technical stuff. It was the way he talks about people, about culture, about building a place where folks want to come to work and making sure young people see a future here too. He's hands-on, thoughtful, and one of the few people I know who can quote Happy Gilmore and talk about workforce strategy in the same breath. Here's my conversation with Darryl Gratrix. Darryl Gratrix, welcome to the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jim. How about you?
Awesome. You know what? Other than butchering your name in the previous take of this, I'm doing great, man. It's not quite 120 here in Phoenix, and we're hopefully cooling down a little bit. We'll be in the low 100s over the weekend. How's the weather where you are? I'm not
it might be a little bit cool for you. I think we're only at about 85 today.
That's sweatshirt weather, man.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's perfect.
I took a vacation a couple of weeks ago and up into Northern California and in the 80s and it was glorious, man. I miss those days. So I just have to wait a couple months and those days will be back for me.
That's right. You'll be enjoying 85 when, I'm at like 30.
Yeah, absolutely. Exactly. All right, Darryl, let's jump into these questions. Let's talk a little bit about you. The icebreaker question that is fairly new. You don't know about it, I don't think. So
No.
This will be fun. If your life were a movie, what genre would it be? Who would play you? And what would be the opening scene?
Wow, that is a great question.
Do what I can, man. I do what I can.
Yeah. Do you want like what it actually would be like or what I would want it to be? I would hope it would be like slapstick comedy because I'm pretty simple like that.
Okay, I like it.
I love my humor.
So
like
in the veins of
school, Happy Gilmore, all those classics.
Okay, yeah, all right. That's what I was gonna reference point for that slapstick. So early 90s or mid 90s slapstick comedy, buddy comedy type movie. Okay, I dig it.
Yeah,
right on.
Yeah, and then who could play me? Yeah, Adam Sandler, Will Ferrell, those would be perfect.
I love it. What would the opening scene be?
Well, I'm trying to think of something not too crude. I'm picturing, myself sitting around with my kids and, all the things that I do to drive them crazy or make them laugh, make my daughter roll her eyes. And, she likes to remind me that, I have about the same mental age as my teenage boys do.
All right. Tell us how old are your kids?
So Victoria's the oldest. She's 22. Andrew's 19. Michael's 17. And my little guy, Jonathan, is 11.
Okay. So you've got a pretty good spread there, but she's seen your daughter and I tell this to my daughter all the time. There were no manuals in parenting, right? So we were learning with our firstborn, and my daughter's our firstborn too. So we were learning with them how to parent. The other ones, they just got the benefit of just being parented, right? So your daughter has seen all of it and now sees you be as immature as that 17-year-old.
Yeah, for sure. And of course, the 11-year-old is just totally spoiled in her eyes, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I get that. I get
Yeah.
that. All right. Well, I asked that question because it paints a pretty good picture of what we're in store for in this conversation today, right? If you had said, it's a dark movie. All right, people are going to have to get ready to have a little bit dark. But you went to
Yeah.
a slapstick comedy, so we already know that we're going to have a lot of laughing. We're going to have some fun. You picked two of my favorite actors to play you. So I think this is going to go real well,
Yeah.
man. Looking forward to it. So let's dive into a deeper question here and tell us, Darryl, in your eyes, what does culture mean to you?
I'll expand on this, but if you want to capture it in one sentence, treat others the way you want to be treated. It's as simple as that. And as you know, man, I'm getting old. It's over. I'm pushing 28 years now, working in manufacturing, most of that time in tool rooms. So the first 20 plus years, that was not the culture. You've been in enough shops to know, there's so many, not that there were lots of good people. I don't
Absolutely.
like to say there weren't, but there were so many people that were negative, like to keep to themselves, keep all their skills, little tricks to themselves, and not share because they didn't want to lose their job by training other people or sharing those secrets, which we all know is the exact opposite of the truth, right? The most valuable guy would be who could train the most people to share all that knowledge.
Absolutely. So
So, yeah, that would be,
I dig it. I like it.
yeah,
So, with a career that long, I think in the bio you sent me, you say you started in Tool and Die in '98, right? Am
yep,
I
yep,
okay?
that's correct. That's when I started working full time. Yeah.
So, what pulled you into the Tool and Die world? What drew you to this as a industry and a career path, and something that could potentially be sustainable for you as a full time job?
Yeah, yeah. My path into the trades is a little bit different from a lot of people in that I didn't grow up, working on cars and being labeled as, the kid who had that technical aptitude and was bound to end up in the trades in some form or another. I didn't know what I wanted to do in high school really, other than I knew I wanted to go to university, and that was, more for the experience than the education.
Absolutely.
I did grow up. My dad, did household projects, renos and stuff, so helped him with that. I had uncles who were farmers, so I helped them during the summers. So, I did know how to work. There's nothing like splitting wood in the summer when it's 85 or 90 degrees out to build some character, right? Or
Right.
trying to move around bales of hay when you're 80 or 90 pounds. So yeah, anyways, I went to university, got a 3-year BA in geography. And then by
Wow.
my third year, figured out, well, this was fun, but now I'm going to have to figure out, how I'm going to make a living for the rest of
Hmm.
my life. And so I'd been using AutoCAD and a couple other softwares, and I enjoyed that and kept seeing in the, back then it was in the newspapers, not online, that there were all kinds of jobs in tool and die making. And of course, I had, well, like most of the population, had no clue what that was. So, but I knew there was, I wanted to get into something where there was lots of job opportunities, and that seemed to be a field. So I went to a local manufacturing facility, kind of a friend worked there that my parents knew. So I went for a tour of the tool room with our stereotypical old, he was a nice guy, maybe a little crusty,
Right.
but he
Right.
made it quite clear that all the guys that worked there, spent all their time at home working on engines and snowmobiles in the winter. And, those were the type of people that got to this trade. So, yeah, fortunately, I didn't listen to him and applied for a 2-year college program in tool and die. And so that's what I did after university. And then I had a summer co op at college and got a job at a stamping facility, and then was hired on there full time after college, and I spent the first almost 16 years of my career there.
Wow.
Yeah, that was where I got my start, and then yeah, the last 12 years I've been working in the injection molding industry.
And now you're at the leadership level now, right? Tell us about
Yep,
your current position.
yep. For the last 6 months approximately, I've been in the production manager role. For previous 5 years, I was tool room manager.
Okay. Awesome.
Um, yeah, that was at MP's Molded Precision Components where I work now. I was hired into the tool room to run sync EDM, did that for a couple of years, and then there was kind of an open position for a supervisor in the CNC area. So I did that for a couple of years, kind of a working position, still on the machine a bit and supervising a few guys. And then that, we continued to grow, and that turned into a management position, and then moved into the tool room manager role for 5 years.
Awesome. Awesome. And congratulations on the promotion or
Yeah,
the
thank you.
elevation there. Darryl, who were some early influences on your career? I mean, you've talked a couple of times about those crustier people, right? The
Yeah.
stereotypical people we see in shops. Was there a person or people who shaped the way you look at the industry, the way that you look at the world of work, the way you look at leadership to who you are today?
Early on, it was probably, and not that they weren't bad guys or it wasn't a horrible place to work. Obviously, I was there for 16 years, but I did have a lot of examples of how, not to lead. And, I was, had a lot of conversations there with different people over the years, and, you know, received lots of feedback that, oh, well, that's, your philosophy is a little bit different than what's happening.
Got it.
And then at MPC, I'm very blessed to have a couple owners who are both mechanical engineers, very hands on. When they bought this company 20 years ago, for the first year, they were doing everything themselves, building the tools to
Really?
accounting, answering the phones, everything before they could afford to start hiring people.
Yeah.
And they have always at MPC tried to promote a strong culture. We had a code of conduct. And then 5, 6, 7 years ago, we actually put together our culture statement, which is based on our 3 core values of integrity, innovation, and collaboration.
Very
And
cool.
since then, everything we do from interviewing to performance review, it's always based on those 3 core values and our culture. So, yeah, I'd have to say Dave and Tom have definitely influenced me in a positive way the last 12 years.
Yeah. What do you remember most from those early days in the late 90s on the shop floor?
Well, definitely, as with any career, doesn't matter where you are, that those first couple of years is a lot of time spent just trying to absorb and
Hmm.
learn as much as you can. Right? So, yeah, and it's starting in 98. Yeah, I would say for sure the first few years it was just trying to learn as much as I could. Yeah, I probably wasn't as focused back then on the culture. I was too busy just trying to learn the trade.
Sure.
Because
I get
as we
that.
know, there's so many different avenues of this trade, and I was really, even though I was in a small portion of it, there's still a ton to learn.
Yeah. Yeah. What was that transition like from more of that tool and die to mold making, or was there a transition at all?
Yeah, there's definitely a transition. I like to say that the stamping world is much more violent than injection molding, just with the forces involved.
Sure.
There's always, it doesn't take much to have a die blow up, right? If, you know, you have a misfeed or something, or 2 or 3 parts pile up and you're stamping, 2 or 3 millimeter thick material, 80 or 120 thou, it doesn't take much to break bolts and then stuff's falling out and stuff smashing. Whereas injection molding, there's not that same side of it. Things will break and wear out, but it's not in the same manner as with a die.
Sure. Makes total sense.
The other funny part about molding is, you've got tight tolerances on your parts, especially the stuff we do, but it's
Hmm.
actually your seal off around the part where it's plus or minus 2/10, and that has to be perfect or else you're going to get flash on your part.
Got it.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay. So let's now talk, kind of pivot into your journey as a leader. Have you ever felt like you were in over your head as a leader?
Ooh, that's an excellent question. Like I said, I guess I'm very fortunate. We've got a pretty strong team here. So yeah, I don't, probably in my early days as tool room manager, again, as I was learning the ropes there and responsible for, anywhere from 15 to 20 guys, depending on where we were sitting. And then being, as we all know, all those joys, being responsible for building new tools on time. Plus in our case, we have to maintain all our production tools. And we've got 45 molding machine. It's probably 200 or 300 different molds that we have to maintain. And so, there's always that struggle of, something goes down in production, but you're in the middle of or at the end, worst case, at the end of a new tool build, you've got to make that decision. And, as much as everyone like to think, oh, we'll just get it both done, we know that's not always the case, especially in our shop. For the most part, we've got one of each machine, like, one wire EDM, one sync EDM. We've got 3 different mills, so there's a bit more flexibility there. But yeah, those were probably the toughest decisions, or the most stressful, is trying to keep everybody happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you ever made a call that on the people side of it that has still something you reflect on to date, like that you look back at, or that it's that anxiety moment that keeps you up at night? Do you have any stories like that?
As my wife could attest to, I'm pretty easygoing. I don't
I
I
get
don't
that.
get I
Yeah.
don't get too stressed out. Yeah, there are probably one of the tougher decisions we had, as time flies, maybe 4 years ago, when we were looking for a new supervisor in the CNC shop. We had 3 really strong candidates apply. So having to break the news to the 2 guys who didn't get it was probably one of the hardest things. In terms of like hiring people and having regrets, there aren't too many. I know, again, this is, wow, probably 9, 10 years ago, hiring someone to replace me on the sync EDM and it's very hard to find anyone with skills or experience on a sync EDM. So we were always looking for someone who we could train. And yeah, I think that guy was literally my first hire. And yeah, it only lasted a couple months. And I don't have nightmares or anything about it, but when I look back now, it was like, yeah, I think I was just looking for a warm body to replace me, and that was pretty much what I got.
Somebody who could fog a
Yeah.
mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah, got it. What was it like in that vein there? What was it like moving from that individual contributor into a leadership role? Because we see this all the time in this
Yeah.
industry where the best individual contributor is, the best machinist, the best sync EDM
Yeah.
operator, the best welder is promoted into a leadership position, and sometimes doesn't innately possess the skill set to be a leader, right? And so what was that journey like for you, going from that individual contributor into a leadership position?
Yeah. And let's just say, I think as a tool and die maker, machinist, I could hold my own and I was above average, but I was never accused of being the world's best tool and die maker, the world's best sync EDM operator.
Got it.
So, but I know exactly what you're referring to. And we've had, it happens in our trade, all the different trades, right? People who are the best and at what they do, but leadership, it's just not for them, which is fine. And we have people like that, everyone thinks to make more money, you've got to go into leadership. So as a company, it's great that our philosophy is, no, if you're the best engineer out there, then you want to make more money, then you don't have to go into management, because
Awesome.
we know it's going to be very hard to replace you. Some guys, you don't want to say impossible, but we've got a couple guys that are that good. It'd be very tough. So, the company philosophy is, no, we want to pay you to be the best, engineer that we've got. And, we don't want to set you up to fail in management if that's not where your skill set is.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was gonna say, and when I look, as we get older, we have lots of opportunities to look back at our career. And yeah, I think when I look back now, I think all that experience on the floor, gaining all that technical knowledge, served a purpose. But I think my main purpose in this trade was to get into this role of leadership, promoting the skilled trades. I can, once I hit 50, I could see that a lot more clearly. There were those days when I was 25, in my late 20s, and I really wondered about my choice.
Right.
I was like, what am I doing here? Am I really here to make car parts every day? So yeah,
Yes, I get that. I mean, similarly, I've never been accused of being the best salesperson in the world, right? But what I did really well in these companies that I worked for was I could build and lead those high functioning teams, right?
Yeah.
That was my calling when I was a W-2 employee. But I did walk into situations where I would have to reset the culture a little bit, right? Where
Yeah.
I was brought in as a leader, and the culture of the team that I was on, maybe not the organization as a whole, but the culture on the team that I was brought in to lead wasn't as strong as I would like to see it, or wasn't what I wanted it to be. Have you walked into those situations, and what did that look like, making
Yeah.
that cultural turnaround?
Yeah, it was a long road, and yeah, it wasn't easy. As much as when I started MPC, as much as Dave and Tom wanted a great culture, and the tool room especially, that wasn't the reality when I started.
Okay.
And it took probably a good 5, 6 years to get things turned around. As you know, it's hard to find good tradespeople, but especially with mold makers, there's very,
Interesting.
very few mold makers out there and not many kids getting into it.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of hesitancy to make those tough decisions and lose that skill set because it was hard to replace. But when you want to fix things, tough decisions have to be made. And so there were a couple of those, we refer to them as cultural terrorists, that we had to make the decision to let go.
Yeah.
Some, in some cases, they helped us make that decision very easy and almost facilitated it. And
Those are my
what's
favorite.
yeah. Oh yeah, exactly. But it's funny, once those people are gone, and the mold making world is such a small world that you get a reputation as a company, which made it even harder to find people because they knew who was here and what the culture was, and people wouldn't come here. So once we made those decisions, it kind of opened that door, and we were able to bring in some good people. And
Awesome.
so there wasn't that, big gap in skills. There was no noticeable loss of production out of the tool room, let's call it. And so once we kind of proved that out, then there was a lot more buy-in from ownership on, yeah, they're tough decisions, but this is what you've got to do to move forward.
As you've changed this culture, how do you get the word out about the culture there? What are you guys doing that other shops out there may not be doing? Because not a whole lot of people are telling their story about their culture,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
how are you doing that so that you have that stream of candidates?
Well, that's a good question. And again, we do in terms of CNC machinists, we do pretty good in filling those roles. We're connected with a local college pretty close. So anytime, there's some top students in there, we try and get the inside scoop. Mold makers, it's still tough to find those. But yeah, it's when we're hiring as much for culture, trainability, personality as we are for the skill set. Because in an interview, anyone they can say whatever they want, talk the talk,
Absolutely.
and even, somewhat fake it to get through their 3-month probation. But yeah, it's definitely taken a bit of time to develop that as well. But yeah, we make sure, during the interview process, if there's any red flags at all about culture, then it's a deal breaker.
Do you guys have a learning pathway for you said that it's easier to bring machinists in, right? Do you guys ever take those machinists, those young machinists, and say, okay, you're going to come be a machinist, but while you're a machinist, we're going to teach you this mold making side of the business, and
Yeah.
provide them with that career pathway instead of that job at your facility? Is that something you guys are doing with young people?
It's probably something we should be doing right now. Is with a smaller shop, when you're busy, it's very tough to cross train like that. When you've kind of got one guy who is designing your electrodes and cutting them, it's very hard to pull him away and go teach him how to be a mold maker, right? 'Cause it's obviously not going to happen in a couple hours or even a week. But yeah, the other thing is, with most, not just you, I can say this because I experienced the same thing. I always wanted to do CNC or when I got started, right? Because that's kind of the cool, flashy thing, right?
Right.
But then, as it ended up, I actually started in more of a maintenance role with a lot more hands-on work, fitting tools, repairing tools, doing some welding. But I would say it's still a tough sell with the younger generation to get them to see that even when you're laying out that role for them, to develop into a mold maker, I think a lot of them would prefer to stick to the CNC machines.
Got it. Got it. So with the young people, I mean, you're seeing you have that pipeline, that relationship with the community college. What is something that you're seeing that that next generation is getting right, and what worries you, if anything,
Mhm.
about these young tradespeople coming in?
Right now, I'd say my biggest worry is that 95% of the population or more doesn't know what we do or that we exist. I think that's where we have the most work to do.
Yeah, I'd agree. To me, it seems like people feel like, metal parts, cheap metal brackets, all the things that I mean, there are other shows. Paul Van Meter does the Think a Machinist stuff, right?
Yeah,
It almost seems like the general population feels like these things literally grow out of the ground, fully formed and machined, right?
yeah,
How do we, in your eyes, how do we change that perception? Because we all talk about it. I mean, you and I connected on LinkedIn. We all talk about this being an issue, but we still haven't found that way to break out of the echo chamber that is this industry. How do we
yeah.
make that happen in your eyes?
Yeah. I think those that are passionate about our trade need to get out there, get into the middle schools and the high schools and share what a great career this can be. I've been trying this for 3 years now. And it's tough when you go in and I set up my table, I've got some plastic parts and some old inserts, maybe a video going on my laptop, a couple times, maybe a 3D printer, but they want, you need to have something interactive. So, one thing I'm excited about is I'm part of the Canadian Association of Mold Makers. I'm now the co-chair, and we've got a project going on developing a virtual reality simulation for that exact purpose going into schools. And
Very cool.
they're actually, the company that's preparing it was here shooting video 2 or 3 weeks ago. And so the first experience the kids will have is being able to put a block in a milling machine, tighten the vise, fire it up, start making chips. Then they'll be able to run the crane, drop a mold into a press, clamp it, hook up all the water lines, start making parts. And then
Wow.
the last part of it will be they'll be able to virtually assemble a mold. And
That's
so we're
awesome.
hoping to have this module ready by the end of September. So I'm pretty excited about that. And then there's plans for a couple modules after we get that going that are a little more in depth with some CNC machining.
Sure.
But yeah, I
That's awesome.
think I'm really excited about it. Yeah, after
Is
going to
that
so many events.
I
Yeah,
I mean, you said that, and my brain flashed back to the numerous tables that I set up in high schools, and community colleges,
yeah,
over the last couple of years, where I get parts from the local shops. I don't make anything myself, right?
yeah,
So I have to ask them, can I get a box of like fully formed but scrap parts? And I go in, and it's really hard to get them to engage, right?
yeah. Oh
And if
yeah.
they do engage, if they are in that what I've found, at least here in Arizona,
Hmm.
the pathway to earning is a lot easier in some other trades, right? There's a
Yeah,
big ramp up when you talk about machining, when you talk about tool and die, when you talk about mold making. That those aren't like 6 to 9 month programs. To your previous point, these are really in depth, really highly skilled positions. And one of the things that I see out of the young people coming into the trades is they'd rather go into pipe fitting because it's 9 to 12 months, or
yeah,
carpentry because it's 3 to 6 months, right? It's that fast, instant gratification, and that pathway to earning is a lot faster for them. Are you seeing the same thing up there?
oh yeah, for sure. I went to the one event I went to. I had 6 kids leave me a resume, and they all wanted to be an electrician. But I mean, who can blame them, right? I don't know about down there, but up here, you could get your apprenticeship, get your license, have say 8, 10 years experience, start your own business as an electrician. And no disrespect to them, but like for in terms of equipment, what do you need, right? An old van or a truck and some hand tools, and you're out there charging $125 an hour.
Absolutely.
Whereas in our trade, after 30 years, you might be making $40 an hour.
Yeah.
It is. I don't know what the answer is there, but yeah, it's a hard sell.
Yeah. It
And
really
it's
is.
when we have one mold maker who's turning 69 next month, still working full time. He was actually trained as a millwright back in
Wow.
Hungary.
Wow.
And this guy can do anything. Like he can fix all our tools, put new tools together, and then on top of that, he can fix the machines he's working on, right? If his grinder breaks, he can fix it himself.
Yeah,
And when I think about what value this guy would have in any other trade, he'd probably be making
absolutely.
at least twice, if not three times as much money as he's making now. So yeah, that is it's a tough sell, and I don't know what the answer is there.
I don't know either. I mean, I look at, and I've talked about this on numerous episodes. You may or may not have
Yeah.
heard it before, but the trades, you look back 80 years, the trades are what built the middle class, right? And specifically manufacturing post World War II for both Canada and the US. Our middle classes were dependent on that. But at that time, you could have one person as a machinist in the family going to work at a shop, and you could have a house, you could have the family car, that dream that you could exist on just that one income.
Yeah.
And numerous issues, self-imposed mainly, from wage stagnation to offshoring to all the things that plague this industry, contributed to that contraction of the middle class. And I think what we have to do is we have to make it so that that is still achievable. I think that that's the way we get people back into this industry
Yeah.
in droves. Is we say, okay, yes, you are a highly skilled person, but you can support a family on this. You are in middle class. And I think that might be the draw to the other trades is, well, I don't think anybody in North America right now can say just have one of the spouses working and we can be middle class, right?
Yeah.
Unless you're extremely lucky. But I think that you could say we have two people working in this kind of industry in the skilled trades, and we are solely squarely in the middle class, right?
Yeah.
Do you think there's any validity to that statement at all?
Yeah, for sure. Trying to think. Yeah, unfortunately, 100 grand isn't that much anymore. Like, I think I saw with inflation, then this is in Canadian dollars, 100 grand Canadian is the equivalent of about making 42,000 in 1990.
Wow.
Yeah. And I know there's a lot of people not making 100,000.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's an interesting stat. Now I'm going to dive down that rabbit hole after we get off this. So thank you.
Yeah. And probably on good old LinkedIn, I think I've seen I think in the States, they're saying to kind of maintain that lifestyle, you need to have a household income of 200 grand,
Yeah.
220 grand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's wild. I mean, that was when I was growing up, that was wealthy. And
Oh, yeah.
I'm not too much younger than you. I'm, latter half of my fees at this
Or, yeah.
point. So when I was, those were the people that had, right? Back in when I was growing up. So it's wild to think that is squarely middle class now.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know what the answer is, especially in the automotive industry in terms of trying to get those wages
Yeah.
up.
Well, I mean, in the automotive industry, you've been one of the industries that have automated more than others,
Yeah.
right? Have you seen a trend in the automotive, in the mold making side of things to automate and then upskill people, and do the wages follow when you upskill people to be able to run that automation? Or is that not that promise, I guess, that we've talked about for the last decade not really coming to fruition?
Yeah, it's hard. I don't have a great point of reference because we're basically making the plastic parts. We don't do any assembly.
Right.
We definitely automate as much as we can. Run, like, we have 3 people on our afternoon shift and no midnight shift.
Okay.
All the parts are picked by robots off the machines, just simple 3-axis robots. But yeah, I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know, it'd be better to ask someone who's in a full-on assembly plant
Sure.
what they've seen.
Yeah. What's a good day for Darryl look like?
I usually start my day at 7 and, do a quick walk around, touch base with everyone, see if we've had any issues overnight. So, that's always a good start to the day if it's been a good night and things are running. And then, yeah, the other side of it is if there are issues that we have to deal with, and just trying to help the team figure out what the plan is. If there's anything they need, then I try and help them get that. So making sure that everyone has what they need to do their job properly. I'd say that's probably an even better day, right? When you can help your team just succeed and make them feel good about themselves. I'd say, yeah, that would be a perfect day.
I love that. I love that. If you had that like magic wand that you could wave and change one thing about how people view this industry, what would it be?
It would definitely be that, our trade, or the skilled trades in general, are, a number one choice for career for kids, not the backup plan for the kids that society feels they can't do anything else with their life, which is unfortunate. So it'd be that perception change of our
Okay.
trade.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. What excites you about the future of the industry?
Definitely, the last couple of years, I think you're seeing it in the States. We've definitely seen it here in Ontario, where there's a lot more support now from government for the skilled trades. They're putting a lot of money into training. This project with the virtual reality, that's all funded by a government grant. And so, I think the last couple of years, I feel a lot more hopeful for bringing our trade back to
I love
being
it.
a desired career. And
I've,
like I
I've,
say,
go
what
ahead. No, no, no. Go ahead.
getting into the high schools with the virtual reality. A couple other cool pieces of equipment are, Tormach sells a small tabletop router, small mills, they're portable. You can get those into schools, and our local college, Georgian College, has a couple of them. And I've been at events where they brought them in, and they're just right on the spot doing little key tags, engraving the kid's name in them, and so
Yeah.
they do that right there in front of them. And I've seen how successful that was. They had a lineup of kids waiting to see that. Also working with another college on getting a 3D printed mold for educational purposes, so you could have that, so the kids could physically take that apart, as
Yeah.
well as virtually assembling a mold. So yeah, I think there's some pretty big stuff coming in terms of promoting the trades, and there's a lot of the big names that are on LinkedIn and in the machining world now are getting on board with promoting this. So yeah, no.
I know the CTMA. I've worked with them before in the past. Rob Cattle and the group at the CTMA have been working on different apprenticeship programs and
Yeah.
pipeline building there, and it's really impressive what the work is that he's been doing.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny. He was here for a visit last week, actually. I
No
met him.
kidding. He's a
Yeah.
cool guy.
Yeah, and again, so what he's doing is all funded by this SDF, Skills Development Fund, that's put
Okay.
on by the Ontario government.
Yeah.
And I've been at a few of the high schools where they've outfitted them, and they've
That's
got these
awesome.
tabletop routers, 3D printers, all the computers and software they need, small, full-on CNC machines with tool changers, manual mills, lathes, saws, you name it.
I
So
love
yeah,
it.
it's an awesome program. I think he said it's something like over the last 5 or 6 years, they put about $6 million worth of equipment into 130 high schools in Ontario.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
That's a massive amount, man.
Yeah, yeah.
That's so
And
cool.
then the other part of it they call career ready, and that is for training. You can get up to $1,000 per person
Wow.
for 10 to 16 weeks of training, which
Wow.
is, and the purpose behind it is awesome. It's not for the person getting trained, it's wage subsidies for the person who's doing the training. Because
That's
we all
great.
know how that's always a big worry, right? Is
Yep.
I can't take Joe away from this because he's so valuable and he's making me this much money. So this helps subsidize that a bit. And you can use it multiple times throughout the year, up to a maximum of 60,000 a year. Yeah.
That's huge.
So yeah, he's doing great things with that program.
Very cool. Darryl, second to last question. What's next for you professionally, personally? What's that next step you're looking to get to?
Yeah. So professionally at MPC, I think the next step for me would be becoming operations manager. Yeah. Personally is to continue to spread the good word on our trade, and trying to attract the next generation in.
Yeah.
And that's why with these new tools that we're gonna have in our hands, I'm really excited about it. Yeah,
I am too. I'm going to have to take a trip north of the border and come see it in action once you get it deployed. So
yeah,
make room for
and
me in
oh yeah, for
Ontario in
sure.
September, October.
Yeah. Well, yeah, then personally, some things I have coming up are speaking engagements.
Okay, let's hear.
So I've got, let's just say, I've got a lot of practicing to do in front of the mirror the next couple months. We have our quarterly town halls at work, and, there's 80 people. So I've got no problem getting up there and speaking. But, I'm going to be speaking at CTMS in Toronto in late September for Cam about the virtual.
Awesome.
So yeah, that'll be interesting. And then um, in November, I think it's called Hot Shops, put on by Modern Machine Shop. But they're having a 2-day conference. I'm going to be speaking there on again recruiting the next generation of skilled trades.
Very cool,
So
man.
personally, yeah, I need to get going on my public speaking and hone those skills.
Oh, you're great. You're a great speaker, man.
Yeah.
You got this. You got it in the bag. Darryl, what haven't I asked you that you want to share?
Oh, that's a good question too. I touched on Cam. That was a big one. Another program that kind of got me started on this journey with skilled trades that I've been a part of for 3 years is the Ontario Youth Apprenticeship Program. So it's another thing we've got going here, and I'm on the advisory committee for our local school board for Machinists, tool and die mold maker. And so what this program does is in grade 12, the students do a co-op, and they can actually get signed up as an apprentice in high school before they graduate.
Very
Graduate,
cool.
and for our trades, they can actually go do their first level apprenticeship schooling at our local college in May and June.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a great opportunity for kids to get a good head start on their skilled trades career coming out of high school.
That's a really cool model for
Yeah.
that. Awesome. Very
Yeah. And
cool, man.
it's one of those things, we need to share what we're doing, all these success stories, because, I'm like, why isn't that happening all over the place?
Yeah.
And it could be because no one knows about it.
I think that's part of it. I also think that for as open as this industry is, we also are very guarded in our processes just innately, right?
Yeah.
Because that's part of our competitive advantage. And so we're not used to sharing wins publicly
Yeah.
because that gives away our secret sauce. But what it does is for these kinds of programs, it insulates it and makes it non-scalable, non-repeatable. So thank you very much for sharing and
Yeah.
thank you for
Well,
your openness and
yeah. And
vulnerability today.
just on that note, it's, once again, I sound like a broken record, but I'm very fortunate at MPC that our doors are open for anyone to come, do a tour. We're collaborating. Actually, just this week we had a collaborator, our first meeting of the fourth line collaborative is what we're calling ourselves. We're in an industrial park, and forever we've been by ourselves out here. And now we've got 3 or 4 neighbors. So we're kind of going to have a once a month meeting with them to see
Very
what we
cool.
can work on. And when we do have high school tours, then we can try and get them to come through all 4 facilities instead of just ours. And
Yeah,
so, no, you're right. If we want to bring North America back to being the best in manufacturing, we've got to collaborate and work together instead of working in silos and keeping our secrets, because, I think it's held us back for too long.
absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of, what's your shirt say there, Daryl?
Yes, that's what I was thinking as I said that. We're helping make North American mold making great.
I love it. That's a
Yeah.
great shirt. Well, Daryl, thank you very much. Best of luck with your speaking engagements. This will probably come out right before or right around the time of your one in September. So best of luck with those and the programs that you've got kicking off. I'm very excited to follow along on LinkedIn. How can people find you? Is LinkedIn the best place for people to find you?
Yeah, for sure. LinkedIn's the best. And if you want, I can also share an email address to put in the show notes when it does go out.
Absolutely. If you're okay with it, I'll just grab it. You've emailed me a couple of times, so I'll just grab it from there and put that in the show notes. Folks, reach out to Daryl. He's doing some really cool stuff, whether it's for what they're doing on the mold making side or it's part of any of the numerous training programs, next generation programs that he's a part of. Reach out to him. Again, let's share this knowledge. Let's make it happen. Let's get the younger people interested in these trades because that's how we rebuild that middle class and rebuild build what we once were. So, Darryl, thank you very much.
Yeah, and thanks for having me on the show, Jim. I appreciate it.
And folks, as they say in show business, that's a wrap on today's episode of the Manufacturing Culture Podcast. A big thanks to Darryl Gratrix. A big thanks to Darryl Gratrix for being here and bringing honesty and thoughtfulness to the conversation. From his start in tool and die to running production, leading people, and investing in the next generation of tradespeople, there's a lot to take away here. Whether it was his perspective on culture, his approach to leadership, or his work getting VR into schools to show kids what this work looks like, Darryl's story is proof that doing the work and showing up for people, it still matters. If something from this conversation hit home from you, please share it. Text it to a friend, post it on LinkedIn, or bring it up next time you're out on the shop floor. This is how we grow the conversation, by making it part of how we show up every day. If you're new to the show, head over to themanufacturingconnector.com. That's themfgconnector.com. You'll find episode notes, more stories like this, and some of the other projects we're working on. You can also follow us on LinkedIn and Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. We're really not that hard to find. And if you haven't already, take 5 seconds, hit follow on whatever podcast app you're listening to this on, drop a rating or a quick review. It really helps. It matters more than it should, and it rockets us up the charts every time one of you likes and reviews the podcast. We've got more episodes coming, more stories, more shop talk, more conversation about what it means to lead and build in this industry. We've got more episodes coming, more stories, more shop talk, more real conversations about what it means to lead and build in this industry today. As always, keep building, keep leading, and don't forget, culture is a team sport. I'm Jim Mayer, and I'll see you next time on the Manufacturing Culture Podcast.